we went from 400 or 500 followers to 25,000 within a couple hours. And then for like by the weekend, we were already at 55,000. And then within like 2 weeks, we were already like on the 100,000. And we were like, yo, this is completely out of control.
So Helix Auto Works is really, it's just the three of us, and kind of just started because we're building our own cars. And then, people say, hey, can you do my timing belt? Hey, can you do my clutch? And when the pandemic hit, it got real busy. And I didn't know where all this was coming from. I was like, where are these people getting all this money? Because nobody can go to work. But it just blew up, and we were just doing NSXs left and right. And I was doing everything out of a townhouse garage. But I was just cranking out cars, trying to get money for my builds. I mean, I'm a huge Acura Honda fan. I love most cars, but I like those specifically, and big Integra guy, and moved over to the NSX platform and started to work on my own, and just found that it was a very easy platform to work on, with the exception of a couple things that are annoying, but taught myself how to do everything, and then just started offering the services. So the story goes that the car was stolen in 2003. Yes, got an insurance check out of it, and then never heard from it again. And then in 2019, it was recovered as part of a missing persons investigation, because there was someone who died or was missing, and the family thought that person was in this area, and so they did some third-party sonar. It's a really muddy river. It's very hard to see anything in there. So they did some sonar, found a bunch of cars down. I think they found 3 cars, and one of them was this person. And then one of the cars was the NSX. They pulled it out. Police, I guess, held on to it for maybe 2 years or something like that. That's from what I understand. And then it went to an impound lot. And then once all that stuff was all settled, it went to this junkyard. I think the plan was to crush it. They decided to offer it as like a one last chance, maybe if somebody needed a part or something, I guess. And so he put it up for sale.
My friend Jay, we work off hours. I usually work on PM shift, and he's usually really, up by 4 in the morning. So, waking up, starting my day like around 8 in the morning, and then I have a missed call from him. He usually doesn't call me in the morning. That was kind of odd, and I was like, what's going on? And so I was like, I'm not gonna pick up. Like, it's probably something like not very important. And I was on my way to the bathroom, and he was like, keep calling and calling and calling. So I was like, okay, this is really important. So I pick up, and he's like, hey, I found an NSX for our friend Ramsey, because we were trying to build him an NSX. And I was like, all right, cool. Any info? Our community is very small, so we kind of know everybody. Like, I own my NSX for almost 15 years, so does he. And so we kind of always like go to the meetings, and we know most of the people in different states. He's like, oh, the car is in North Carolina. And I was like, okay, well, your wife is from there, so I'm sure you know the owner. And he's like, not really. And I was like, red flag. Okay, so how's the car? And he goes, it's on a junkyard. And I was like, okay, do you know anything about it? And I know Jay is very anal when he sees a car, and he asks all the proper questions, and he was not trying to give me as much details. He's like, I can send you a picture. And I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. So I was like, yeah, sure. Like, give me 1 second. He sent me the link, and I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but he sent me a picture. Like, if you go and look at the car at the beginning, most of the pictures are from the front of the car with a tree coming out from the passenger side, and it looks pretty crazy. But he sent me like rear from the quarter panel towards the front, so you don't get to see all the action, right? And I was like, oh, that okay. I think it's a good buy. How much is it? $5,000. And I was like, yeah, I think like it's a good buy. I mean, like, it looks pretty terrible, but I think we've seen worse before. So I was like, yeah, go for it. And then he calls the owner of this. It's funny because the company is called LSX. I don't think it's any relation to NSX, but like something to do with that. We called the guy, called me back, and he's like, well, it's $6,000 now. It's like, what do you mean? You said five. It's like, apparently, somebody else is interested in it. It's like, who else on the Safe Mind besides us is gonna buy a car like that? It's like, I don't know, but he said now it's 6,500, and this is within minutes of like us calling, like reaching out to the guy and then the company and be like, we're interested, we'll buy from you. And then next time we know, like 10 minutes later, it was 75. 20 minutes, 8,000. And I was like, yo, $8,000 for a car. And then I started seeing the rest of the pictures, and now it's all the front and the windshield is all destroyed. Okay, this is gonna be quite a project. But we are three owners, so we have to make a adult decision on how we spend the money. So I was like, okay, look, I'm down if you're down. If you continue, we'll pull it off because Jay is more familiar than the car than I am. I mean, I have my experience, but he knows the car better than I do. So I was like, if you think we can do it, then I'm down. Let's do it. But we also have to call Ramsey, right? That's the third owner. And so we called him, and he didn't pick up because around noon, they all work and they're in the labs and they're not allowed to have their phones. But mysteriously, he picked up his phone. First try. He was like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, we have a car." He's like, "Do we?" It's like, "Yeah." We give it like very little details, and then he's like, "If you guys think we can pull it off, then let's pull it off." So the guy says 8,500. So it went up $500 more. We were like, okay, well, we have green light. We all informed, and she just pulled the trigger. And the guy was like, "Look, there is another lady, which it was Becca. She was like, she's really interested to buy this car to have it as like a visual ornament. That was her idea for the car. Sure, like, can we still buy? It's like, look, I'm gonna honor you calling me first. So if you want to pay the 8,500 because that's her highest bid, then you can have it. If you don't want it, it's gonna go to her. So we were like, yeah, sure, let's go for it. We sent in the payment, and I think within 24 hours, that thing went viral. Like, we have our Instagram, Helix Autoworks. We did a couple like built for Savage Garage. There's a twin turbo NSX that was there, and most of the followers from that Instagram account, there we know them. It's maybe like decent 300-400 people, and that's between NSX owners and friends and relatives that trying to be supportive of our little projects. Then Jay called me. He's like, bro, like, I have all these emails. They want to do an interview. Like, they're asking about like what do we do, where are we located, and I was like, why they're calling us? It's like, the car. Which car? Like the purple car? It's like, no, the car from the river, like the one that we just was like, yeah, how do they know? Like, I don't know. And then we saw that our friends keep reposting it, and most people they found this story quite interesting. So it was like repost from one page to another page to another page to another page, and then we were in like Fox News. We were in like Supercar Blondie, like pick up on it, and then she did a quick article about us, and we were sending emails to do. I think we were in Yahoo, Japan. We did an article in Germany. I have no idea what they said about us. I just know there's a couple of pictures with us right next to the car. We went to pick up the car, and we went from 400 or 500 followers to 25,000 within a couple hours. And then for like by the weekend, we were already at 55,000. And then within like 2 weeks, we were already like on the 100,000. And we were like, yo, this is completely out of control. Because the idea was just build like a race truck, a race car, like, just keep the parts and like remove a few parts here and there that were busted, like the front suspension completely destroyed. When they was out of the water already, I think they were dragging it out on the dirt, and they busted the A pillars, and then I guess that was they couldn't move it like into where they wanted, so they put the straps into the front suspension, and then they destroyed the control arms, and they did it to the lower control arms, and then they did it to the front rails until they couldn't drag the car anymore, because we found out when we put on the scale an NSX weighs around like 2,900, maybe 3,000 pounds plus the driver. Car weighted 5,241 pounds, and all it was just like 2,000 pounds of like uh dirt, stones, fishing weights, and like shells and all this other crazy stuff that we found there. Next time we know, our plans changed, because now it became more like a project that the people were kind of determining how we want to, like, how to build a car, because we want to build something simple. They're like, restart it, you should bring it back to life. And we were like, oh boy, this is kind of getting out of control, right? Because we were planning to do something on our own terms, and now the viewers started determining the project. We were like, okay, so Let's look at it. Let's see how feasible it is. I mean, it was it's 8,500 for a car that was like in pretty bad shape. So definitely not as smart as like decision financially wise. But then we're like, okay, so we just build it and see where we go from here, right? So then we start taking it apart, and everybody on Instagram like, you should do a channel, you should do a channel. And I was like, okay. Luckily for me, or for us, like I was just like taking little videos and like in portrait mode for Instagram, because like that's what we had. Watch a couple of videos on YouTube trying to see how to edit and put a video together, and me thinking that that was enough. And I put all these little pieces from me going from DC with the trailer to the junkyard, which was right next to a cemetery, and it was like all these like graves in there. And they left me alone with the car. I have no idea where I was, and I just like really need to get out of there. So I started recording little pieces of the whole trip until we got the car into our garage. And I thought that was good enough, and I put it together, and we got 100,000 views, and probably the nastiest comments I've seen in my life. But here we are dealing with it. We end up buying another car. We noticed that we needed like a whole front end. The front end was in pretty bad shape, and we went to H Day. We got invited because they thought it was the coolest thing. The three guys, they just wasted their money in a crazy project. And while we were at the event, somebody hit us up. It's like, hey man, there is an NSX that caught fire on the rear, and you guys said that you needed a clean front end. Pieces started falling into place. Like we needed a front end. We were not actually looking because we needed to take the car apart. And then the Fire X, that's how we call the other car, came into the whole story. And then I went to pick it up in Tennessee, and it looks terrible, but the back of the car is the less we didn't need it, so that was fine. Surprisingly, the transmission and the engine, they're still in good shape. We just need a couple of ball covers, and we can actually reuse that if we want to. And now we are in the process of figuring out how to get a title for this thing, because we thought it's gonna be a little bit easier, and it turns out to not to be like that. But we're working trying to sort things out with all this paperwork. And after that, we're gonna figure out like how to put this whole project together. We don't want to break the law and do something sketchy. When we are figuring if we can get a title or not, then we're gonna decide if we're gonna do a full OEM restoration plus, or we're gonna make it a race car and then rebuild the other car. But we have to figure out the legal part first, and then we're gonna decide to throw more money at it and see where we go from there.
Between cannonballs and rallies and car treks, I've been on well over 100 road trips, but one of the things that I always see is that nobody else is terribly prepared. And this is not just a jab at Freddie, but generally people don't bring the tools, the supplies, and the things they need to make it all the way to the destination of their road trip. And so I decided, after building kind of the kit that I take between cars for the long drives I go in unreliable vehicles, as the ultimate road trip survival kit. And you'll find a link in the description below to an Amazon shopping cart of the things that I think you need in order to get there, and get there without a tow bill attached to it. So check it out now, buy what you think you want, let me know in the comments what I left out, and we'll try to keep refining it so we can build the ultimate road trip survival box.